My stepmom thought she could control us with threats and lies. But when my son found what she'd been hiding, her perfect act crumbled overnight, and our family finally saw who she really was. Hi Reddit. I'm Catherine, 62, and I've been married to my husband Edward, 64, for over 35 years. We met in college, built a life together from nothing, and have faced every hardship side by side. We have one son, Jonathan, who's 38 now. He has two children from his first marriage, Chloe, 14, and Noah, 12, our pride and joy. We've been involved in their lives since they were born, attending every birthday, every school play, and every soccer game. Jonathan's first wife, Laura, wasn't just a daughter-in-law to us, she was like our own daughter. She was kind, graceful, and an incredible mother. But after Noah was born, she was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease. Despite years of fighting and staying optimistic, we lost her 6 years ago. That loss shattered all of us, especially Jonathan and the kids. For a long time, Jonathan buried himself in work just to cope. He was exhausted, grieving, and constantly on autopilot. Edward and I did everything we could to help, from babysitting the kids to staying over when things got tough. About 3 years ago, Jonathan finally started dating again. He was hesitant at first, plagued with guilt about moving on, but we encouraged him. That's when he met Vanessa through mutual friends. At first, Vanessa seemed pleasant, polite, a bit distant, but we thought she was just shy. She had 2 kids of her own from a previous marriage, Caleb, who's now 10, and Grace, who's 8. The kids, however, were difficult. Caleb was often rude at gatherings, and Grace threw tantrums whenever she didn't get her way. We tried not to judge. Blending families is never easy. We assumed they'd adjust with time. But even after years, their behavior didn't improve, and the gap between our grandkids and Vanessa's children only grew wider. Edward and I have worked hard our entire lives. He had a long, successful career in banking, while I ran a small interior design business that turned out to be quite profitable. We lived modestly, invested wisely, and built up a solid estate over the years. Our plan was simple. Everything we've earned would go to Jonathan and our biological grandchildren, Chloe and Noah. We never planned to include Vanessa or her kids, not out of cruelty, but because we hardly knew them and had no emotional bond with them. Then everything changed last week. Vanessa called, asking to meet privately while Jonathan was away on a business trip. We assumed it was about his upcoming birthday and thought it'd be nice to spend some time getting to know her better. We invited her over for tea, but the conversation quickly took a dark turn. She started by saying she'd overheard a phone call between Jonathan and me about our will. I was surprised but stayed calm. Then she said very casually that Jonathan felt uncomfortable with how our assets were divided, and that he believed it was unfair to exclude her children. According to her, he didn't want to bring it up directly, afraid it would make him look greedy. I remember sitting there, frozen. Jonathan had never been one to hide his opinions. If something bothered him, he spoke up. This story didn't sound like him at all. Then came the real shock. Vanessa told us that unless we agreed to include her children in our will, she'd have to reconsider how often Chloe and Noah could see us. It wasn't subtle, it was a direct threat. She made it clear that our relationship with our own grandchildren would depend on how we handled the will. Edward and I were stunned. We didn't accuse her of lying outright, but we politely said we'd think about it and let her know. As soon as she left, we called Jonathan. He stepped out of his meeting immediately after hearing how shaken I was. When we told him everything, he was furious. He swore he'd never said anything like that to Vanessa, and that he had no idea she'd confronted us behind his back. Jonathan was heartbroken. He asked us to keep Chloe and Noah with us until he came home, just to give him space to deal with the situation. We agreed instantly. That was over a week ago. The kids are still with us. What started as a fun sleepover has turned into something much more serious. Jonathan has been trying to reason with Vanessa, but she's refusing to back down. She's given him an ultimatum. Either convince us to add her kids to the will or she'll end the marriage and keep Chloe and Noah from us. It's breaking him. He's torn between his love for his wife and his loyalty to his family. Edward and I feel awful about the situation, not because of money, but because of the pain it's causing our son and grandkids. Our will was meant to secure our family's future, not destroy it. We keep asking ourselves if we've done something wrong. Were we too distant with Vanessa? Did we make her or her kids feel unwelcome? But then I remember all the dinners, birthdays, and holidays we invited them to. We truly tried. Still, here we are being manipulated over something that should have never been anyone's business but ours. It's been 2 weeks, and things have gone from bad to worse. Jonathan took leave from work to focus on this crisis. He's staying with us now, along with Chloe and Noah. He's lost weight, barely sleeps, and looks exhausted all the time. Vanessa won't stop calling and texting him, some messages full of guilt, others full of threats. She's even started spreading rumors that we're trying to destroy her marriage because we never accepted her or her children. Jonathan is heartbroken. He's always been kind and patient, but Vanessa is pushing him to his limit. To make things worse, she's now involving her kids in this. She told Caleb and Grace that we don't love them and don't want them in the family. It's cruel and manipulative. We've urged Jonathan to speak to a lawyer, especially since Vanessa has threatened to withhold Chloe and Noah. He's finally considering legal options and custody protections. Jonathan also admitted that this wasn't the first time she's manipulated him. Early in their marriage, she pressured him into buying a luxury car they couldn't afford because it looked bad to have an older one in their neighborhood. He gave in just to avoid a fight. Looking back, he sees that was the beginning of a pattern. We've turned our guest room into his temporary home and made a study space for the kids. We're even looking into family therapy. Chloe and Noah are struggling emotionally, and we don't want them to carry this pain forever. As for our will, we haven't changed a single word. In fact, we're now setting up a trust fund for Chloe and Noah to protect their future, no matter what happens next. A week later, everything came to light, and it's worse than we ever imagined. Jonathan filed for divorce. He made that decision after discovering a folder on their shared computer labeled Plan to Secure Inheritance. Inside were months of emails Vanessa had exchanged with her friends, written long before their wedding. She'd been researching our family finances, planning how to blend the families financially, and bragging about how she'd convinced Jonathan and us to include her children in our estate. She even mentioned that if we refused, she could use access to the grandkids as leverage. Jonathan was devastated. The woman he'd trusted had been plotting this manipulation from the very beginning. He showed us the emails, and Edward nearly cried. Everything suddenly made sense, her behavior, her timing, her coldness. It wasn't about family. It was about money and control. Jonathan has moved forward with the divorce proceedings, and Vanessa's true colors have now been exposed to everyone, including her own family and mutual friends who had once defended her. Chloe and Noah are slowly healing, and we're focused on rebuilding peace for them. Edward and I are still heartbroken over the chaos this caused, but we're grateful that the truth finally came out before Vanessa could do more harm. We've learned a painful but powerful lesson. Greed can wear a kind face, and sometimes protecting your family means standing firm no matter how much it hurts. We're not changing our will. Not now. Not ever. Vanessa had been more cunning than any of us realized. In the emails Jonathan found, she wasn't just talking about securing her children's future. She had been actively asking friends for advice on how to manipulate the situation. Her plan was chillingly strategic. She wrote that she intended to first present herself as the perfect wife and loving stepmother, earning our trust and admiration. Once she felt she had our sympathy, she'd begin gently suggesting that her children should be treated no differently than Chloe and Noah, even financially. But that wasn't all. In her messages, Vanessa openly admitted that if persuasion didn't work, she had other tools: emotional pressure, guilt trips, and if necessary, threats. Reading those words left Jonathan completely shattered. When he confronted her, Vanessa didn't even deny what he'd found. She was furious, but not for being caught. She was angry because he had invaded her privacy. Then she gave him an ultimatum. Either convince us to change our will, or she'd make the divorce as ugly and painful as she could. That was the breaking point. Jonathan packed up essentials for himself, Chloe, and Noah, and moved permanently into our home. Within days, he'd hired a lawyer and started the divorce process. The entire family was still in shock at how quickly everything had fallen apart. Chloe and Noah were confused and heartbroken. For them, this was the second time their world had collapsed, first losing their mother, and now watching their father's marriage disintegrate. Chloe became quiet and withdrawn, spending hours alone in her room. Noah started having nightmares and refused to let Jonathan out of his sight, terrified of being left again. Edward and I are doing everything we can to create a safe, loving environment for them. We've built routines: family dinners every evening, homework help, weekend movie nights, and walks in the park. Anything to help them feel grounded again. Meanwhile, Vanessa has been alternating between rage and desperation. One day she's sending angry, threatening messages. The next, she's begging Jonathan to come back, claiming she just made a mistake. She's even threatened to fight for custody of Chloe and Noah, despite having no legal rights to them. Jonathan's lawyer quickly assured him her threats were baseless, but that hasn't stopped the emotional strain. Edward and I have made it clear that we're standing by our son completely. We're covering his legal expenses, helping with the children, and reminding him that none of this was his fault. Our house is full and loud again, but it feels like a safe haven, and in a strange way, it's brought us all closer. Jonathan has started opening up about his marriage in ways he never did before. He confessed there had always been red flags, her controlling tendencies, her habit of turning every argument around to make him feel guilty, her obsession with appearances. He thought she was just particular. Now he sees those behaviors for what they were, manipulation. We've had difficult conversations about Laura, too. Chloe and Noah have begun asking more questions about their late mother, seeking memories of the stability and love they once had. It's heartbreaking, but also healing. We've been going through old photo albums, telling stories, laughing and crying together. It's our way of reminding them that they're still surrounded by love, even in the middle of chaos. A month has passed since my last post, and a lot has happened. Jonathan and Vanessa's divorce proceedings are now in full swing, and it's been an exhausting battle. True to her word, Vanessa is making the process as miserable as possible. She's contesting everything: property division, finances, and even custody arrangements. Even though she has no parental rights to Chloe and Noah, she's now claiming that she's been their mother figure and deserves visitation. It's absurd but typical of her need to control. Thankfully, Jonathan's lawyer has done an outstanding job. They've gathered overwhelming evidence of Vanessa's manipulation, including the emails where she detailed her inheritance plot. Those messages have become the backbone of Jonathan's case. Chloe and Noah are still adjusting, but they're showing incredible resilience. We've enrolled them both in therapy, and it's helping. Chloe's therapist encouraged her to start journaling, and she's begun writing again, something she used to love before everything fell apart. Noah joined a youth sports team, which has been wonderful for his confidence and energy. Jonathan, too, is slowly finding his footing again. He's still tired, but there's a spark in him we haven't seen in months. He stopped walking on eggshells. He laughs again. He even cracked a joke at dinner the other night, and we all nearly cried. It felt like we were getting him back. Edward and I have tried to shoulder as much of the load as possible. We look after the kids when Jonathan has meetings or court appearances, and we've started helping him look for a new home nearby. He wants to give Chloe and Noah their own place, somewhere that feels fresh and safe when this chapter officially closes. As painful as this ordeal has been, it's made our family tighter than ever. We've started new traditions: Friday game nights, weekend baking, and little movie marathons. Those small moments of laughter have become precious reminders of what really matters. Edward and I have also taken legal steps to secure our estate. We've finalized a trust for Chloe and Noah, ensuring their future is protected from anyone who might ever try to interfere. It's given us peace of mind, knowing that no matter what Vanessa attempts next, she'll have no power over their inheritance or stability. As for Vanessa's children, Caleb and Grace, our hearts still ache for them. None of this is their fault. They've been caught in the crossfire of their mother's greed. Jonathan has even talked about reaching out to Vanessa's ex-husband, just to make sure those kids are okay. Despite everything, I can't help but admire how Jonathan is handling this, with grace, patience, and strength that remind me so much of Edward. He's channeling his pain into rebuilding his life, focusing on his children, and even talking about pursuing a career change he'd long postponed. He's not ready to date again, and that's perfectly fine. For now, he's focused on being the best father he can be. Chloe and Noah are also slowly rediscovering their happiness. Chloe's thinking about joining the school drama club, something she was always too shy to try. Noah's grades are improving again, and he's made a few close friends on his team. As for Edward and me, this entire ordeal has reminded us of what it means to truly stand by family. We've leaned on each other in ways we haven't had to in decades, comforting one another during sleepless nights, holding hands through court updates, and finding strength in the quiet moments. We've learned that wealth means nothing compared to the love and honesty that bind a family together. Vanessa tried to exploit that, but all she really did was remind us of what can't be bought or manipulated. At the end of the day, truth won. Jonathan is free, Chloe and Noah are healing, and our family is moving forward stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment, hit subscribe, follow for more, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one.